Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Queer Journal. The Queer Journal is all about talking about queer stories, queer news, and just talking about anything revolving around the LGBT community that I think is important. This podcast is pretty much just going to be a place for me to vent or talk about things that are important to me and to highlight on other queer stories because I myself am a trans man and I'm also queer and I want to share stories of other queer people, and it's important to me that their stories are heard because this world does not hear enough stories of queer joy or queer liberation or just queer voices in general. So that's what this podcast is for. So today is just going to be a bit of an introduction. I just want to introduce you to who I am, and I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot recently, which is religion and the LGBT community. That is a topic that is very important to me, but also it's very touchy for a lot of people in the community, and myself included. It's just been on my mind a lot recently, and it's really something I think needs to be spoken about because there is, especially with all of the laws that have been passed in the last year, under the basis and the guise of traditional family values and a lot of the hateful movements being fueled by so-called Christianity, I think it's now is a more important time than ever to actually talk about these things and bring to light the fallacies in these types of ideologies and things like that. So I just want to talk about that because uh, spirituality is still something that's very important to me. But before we get into all that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a queer trans man. I started transitioning when I started socially transitioning when I was 14. I figured out I was trans when I was 14 as well. I started on testosterone when I was 19. I had top surgery at 20, and I've been on hormones for 5 years now, so I'm 24. And I also just label myself as queer because no sexuality really feels right for me. My attraction to people is very confusing to me, so I keep it at queer because I'm mainly attracted to men, but then there's some women who like make me weak at the knees, but it's a very specific type of woman, like tall goth women make me weak in the fucking knees. So like it's a little complicated. I don't feel bisexual, but I don't know. It's just how I feel most comfortable labeling my sexuality. Other than my sexuality and my gender, I'm a huge nerd. I love D&D, gaming, anime, all that shit. I also like writing stories, reading, all that stuff. I also am a coach for trans folks. So we pretty much partner together to help them cope with dysphoria, help them find support through their friends and families, help deal with transphobia and unaccepting friends or family members. And we also work on things like stress management and anxiety and all those things. So that's a little bit about me. We'll get more into like the nitty gritty of my transition and my story as this podcast progresses because I am very open about my transition and I'll talk to anybody about it. Like it doesn't matter. I just talking about just getting into this topic of religion and the queer community. And I don't even want to just say religion because in America, which is where I live, it feels like Christianity is the only one that's actually out here openly being the reason and fueling this movement against LGBT people, but specifically trans people. And I've definitely felt that movement because I'm in the South, so I am in a state where um, it feels like they've cracked down especially hard on the legislation against trans folks. And while it hasn't made it harder, well, let me let me rephrase that. It has made it harder for me to obtain hormones. I was lucky enough to be at a place that was already kind of preemptively taking actions because they could see this coming. So they've already taken actions, and thankfully, nothing really changed about my care, which I'm forever thankful and grateful for because I know too many people who had care just taken from them and have really been struggling to find places that are actually able to provide them hormones. But it's very unfortunate for me to see what people are doing under the guise of Christianity and organized religion in general, because I am someone who grew up in the church. I have a very Christian family. I grew up going to church every week, pretty much every week, being involved in youth groups until I was 18, just being very immersed in Christianity. I was very devoted, very connected with God, honestly, and until until um, I was 12, and before I knew I was trans, so I identified as a lesbian before then. Um, which isn't that fucking crazy because I did an entire flip flop. Was a woman attracted to women, and now I'm a man pretty much exclusively attracted to men. It's a thing. It's actually a thing. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but it's actually a thing where some testosterone does something to you, and like I don't want to I don't want to make a generalization, but say testosterone makes you gay because there's obviously trans men who are on testosterone who are not gay. But I've heard it's like a thing. I don't know the science behind it. I don't know why it happens. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm just dumb. But I've heard a lot of trans men online say that like their sexuality completely flipped, or like at least they were like more attracted to one gender than another one. So it's a real thing. But anyway, so when I identified as a lesbian and before I knew I was trans, I was in a relationship with a girl, and I tried out for my church's youth band, because my church was like it wasn't a mega church, but it was like a big church. It was a big church, and um, like the middle school had their own room, the high school had their own room, and like adult service and whatever, and there was like a kids section. Anyway, so I tried out for the band, and the director said that I did really good, and he was going to offer me a spot. But he told my mom that I could not be a part of the band if I was in a relationship with a girl, pretty much. So even though I was a kid, I was in a relationship with someone for a long time, and I, you know, take relationship lightly, obviously, because you can only be in so much of a relationship at age 12. But but yeah, I my mom told me that, and that was like the flip just switched, and I was done. I was done with God. I was done with Christianity. I was done with all of it, and that came after my parents found out that I was a lesbian. And I want to preface that by saying my parents are incredibly accepting now. They are my biggest supporters. I mean, they literally drove me to get top surgery, helped take care of me afterwards. My mom took me and went with me in the courtroom uh, to have the hearing, have my name changed. They drove me to my first appointment to get testosterone. So they have been very supportive. It was a long journey to get there because they initially were not. But they were also victims of the teaching the hateful teaching that can come out of Christianity. They were very much taught from a young age that it wasn't okay to be gay, and that was that. Nobody questioned it. They didn't, they weren't close enough to other queer people to actually have the experience of challenging those beliefs until I came out as initially a lesbian, and then it really changed when I came out as trans. But my parents were not accepting at all, and that came after a lot of very heated conversations about what the Bible says about being gay, and going to hell because of that, and not being aligned with what they believed in. So with all of those things piled on top of all those things just piled together, and then that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And at that point I was like, absolutely not. Fuck this religion, fuck all of this. I don't believe in any of it anymore. And I turned my back for a long time. A long time. And I believed in a lot of different things, and I still believe in a lot of different things. But I was an atheist for a really long time. I was agnostic for a while. I was a atheistic Satanist for a while. And I don't know if I love to label my religion I don't like to call it religion because it very much does not align with or any organized religion. I'm prefer to call myself spiritual because that's really what I believe in. I'm very into energy and crystals and all that stuff. But I do kind of label myself as a Christian still because that is the God that I've connected with most, and that's not the God you see through the Bible, um, and that's not this hateful, scornful, angry God. That's the God that I believed in when I was a kid, but as I've grown and evolved more, I separate the religion and the organized religion aspect of it a lot. And they're not the same thing to me. And they might be for some people, but it's just not for me. And my beliefs are so different than they ever were when I was a kid. I know so much more than I did then, and I'm so much more educated about not even just the world, but about just myself. Like I'm so much more educated about myself, and I feel like it's telling that the more educated you are, the more you stray from organized religion. And that's not to say that people who believe in organized religion, that's not to say they're all stupid or uneducated or whatever else. But it feels like the more that you learn outside of the lens of an organized religion, the more that you expand and the more that you grow. And I guess that's kind of I guess that's kind of expected because organized religion is so restrictive, and that's not just Christianity. I feel, and it feels like, especially with Christianity, I just, it's so restrictive and it's so fear based, and I hate that. I hate it so much because that fear turns into other people taking it out on everyone else. And we see it. We see it in today's day and age all the time. We see it in politics, especially with all of the bills that are trying to go against queer people. And we see it in, you know, all of these people acting like every single queer person is coming after your kids, which guess what? Newsflash, we're not. Um, and it's just there's so much fear, and that fear just leads to people being uneducated because they're scared of what they're going to learn, and they're scared that that learning and the things that they learn are actually going to challenge what they have known to be true. And I get it. I understand it's hard to have those beliefs challenged, especially when you have lived your whole entire life living by these beliefs. But how sad is it that you can just be restricted to believing one single thing for the rest of your life until you die? It's sad to me that there will be some people out there who just are never able to think outside of that small bubble that they are in. And that's it's genuinely sad to me. It's not even like it's sad that people will continue to be hateful because of that, but it's also sad just for that person because they will never get the chance to think about things with a broader scope and explore all of the different beliefs out there. And I'm not saying, just because they explore the beliefs, they have to believe in them, but it's like, it is just such a unique experience to actually learn about other people's beliefs and learn about other beliefs in the world and just see the world through this lens that being different is a good thing. And it's genuinely just like it blows my mind that there are people out there who don't see that and who don't see that so much that they turn it into being hateful and they turn it into fear and being uneducated, and that lack of education turns into people spreading misinformation or fear mongering or whatever else. And it's just so unfortunate because I know that that is not what Christianity is, and it's so sad to me to see it be warped into this ball of bullshit. There's no better word for it. It's just bullshit. And I wish I could understand when we lost the plot of Christianity so much, because I'm not sure when we lost the idea of loving thy neighbor and just being kind to people, because that has been severely lost in the last like 5 years, especially the last 3. But it feels like, and this is a very general statement, and I know this does not apply to all Christians. I'm not trying to say it does, but it feels like Christianity is synonymous with hate. And I know so many other people agree with that. And I know so many other people understand why I feel that way. And like I said, I know that that's not the case for all Christians, but unfortunately, the ones who are the loudest right now are the ones who make it seem like that. And it's crazy to me that a religion that literally talks about being a good person and loving thy neighbor and being kind to one another, literally in its like rule book, can literally can have people in it that like are just so hateful and are literally taking people's rights away, and people have committed heinous acts against queer people or people of color or whatever else under the guise of Christianity. And it's like, when did the plot get so lost? Because it's definitely, the focus of Christianity is just gone. As a country, as a nation, it is just gone. And like I said, that's not to say all Christians are like that, because I know they're not. I know that they're not. And I know that there are kind, amazing, loving, lovely Christians out there. But it's just the world and the United States in general has the people who are so hateful being so loud all the time. All the time. And I'm so sick of it being twisted by a person. I'm just sick of it. And I know I'm hypocritical because I have, a new definition of Christianity for me. But my definition of Christianity doesn't exclude anyone. That's the thing. And it doesn't promote hate against other people. And it doesn't pit me against other people because I'm different than them. Because my version of Christianity is I can practice whatever the fuck I want. I'm not going to go to hell because I believe in energy or crystals or astrology or whatever else. I'm not going to go to hell because I'm queer or trans. Nobody's going to go to hell because they don't believe in Christianity. I'm not out here to try and force people to believe in Christianity, because genuinely, I'm saying this with love. I'm not trying to say this in a mean way, but I don't care what you believe in. As long as you're a good person, I don't care. And I respect people's beliefs, period. That's just it. I respect people's beliefs, and I'm never going to try and change you. I'm never going to try and convert you. I'm never going to try to tell you you're wrong. To add on to that, I'll never tell you you're wrong unless you are trying to take people's rights away or be hateful. Then I will tell you that you're wrong, because that is just morally wrong. That's not even just me thinking it's wrong. That's, to most people, that is morally wrong. But I will never use my religion as a weapon against someone else. And that is so fucking sad to think about. That is what so many people have experienced. So many people have experienced a religion that at its core is good, is pure and good and loving and kind, being turned into this weapon for hate and harm and violence. I don't understand why Christians are just, like, why so many Christians are just okay with letting that happen. Because that is not, like, why would you want that to represent what your religion is or what your spirituality is? Why would you ever want something so hateful to represent what you believe in? Because then people stereotype. So then you are in turn grouped in with that. And that's why I don't even like to say that I'm a Christian, or don't even want to claim that, because I don't want to be grouped in with those type of people. And that's why I try and find other ways to identify it, because by identifying my spirituality, and that's why I allow myself to expand my beliefs, because I don't want to be grouped in with those people. I don't want to be seen as someone who is hateful and unkind and will turn their back on people because they're different than them, or their gender is different, or their sexuality is different, or their skin color is different, or anything else. I don't ever want to be seen as someone like that. And it pisses me off that so many Christians are just complacent with the fact that that is what their group and their community looks like. That's unacceptable. And like for me, it's the same thing. If there were queer people acting a fucking fool and spreading hate and accepting things that shouldn't be accepted and just doing gross shit, I wouldn't want to be associated with that either. Period. That's just it. It doesn't matter what group I'm talking about, I would not want to be associated with a group that is that hateful. And if I was, I would do everything I could in my power to try and fix that and show people, hey, there are good Christians left, or there are good whatever here in this world. That and maybe it's just a difference in values. Maybe some people just don't care about that. But that is what I care about, because I am sick and fucking tired of so many things being misrepresented, and all of the misinformation, the lack of education, the not even caring to educate themselves is what upsets me about all communities, not even just Christians. It's about everyone, because the world is like that. That's not a Christian exclusive thing. It's just the world is so pessimistic and complacent sometimes. And I can't blame anybody with how the world is right now and how it's continuing to go and how it's been. I can't blame anybody for being complacent. But the only thing that's going to change it is people not being complacent anymore. And it's so frustrating that we have gotten to the point where it is just this huge divide between people. And I get it. I don't want to be around hateful people either. Absolutely not. But the only way that any of this is going to change is if we educate people. And I know it's such a fine line though, because, we're not here to be this free use, it's exhausting to have to educate people. That period. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's just exhausting to have to constantly educate people, and I don't know, educate people to the point where they just understand basic empathy. But it's also like, yes, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do in life. That's what I want to do to try and fix this shit. So it's a very fine line between wanting to fix the situation, but also being exhausted by the fact that there is even a situation to have to fix in the first place. And it's just very unfortunate to me that it is so much of it is pushed under the guise of Christianity, because that's not what it is. It's just people using Christianity as a free pass to be hateful. That's not what true Christianity is. And it's so I want to apologize. I need to hear this myself too, because I've been wronged by religion more times than I can count. Um, but this is I just want to fucking apologize for any LGBT person or person of color or person of different beliefs or whatever else. Anybody who is what people see as different. I want to apologize for the fact that this has been turned into such a tool for just negative, angry, hateful bullshit. I'm genuinely sorry, and I know that maybe it's fucking stupid that I'm sitting here apologizing for it because I didn't do anything, but I don't know. I'm just sorry because I know what it's like. I know what it feels like, and I know how isolating it can be, and I know how just shitty that feels. Like there's no other word for it other than say that feels shitty, and um, even people in Christian families who might not believe or are ostracized because they don't believe certain things from the Bible or whatever else, or who have different beliefs. I'm so fucking sorry. Like it's not fair. And I know life isn't fair. Well, I don't give a fuck if life's not fair. What's not fair is that people are hurt so much and have been for so many years over this false narrative. And I'm genuinely sorry. Like it's sad. It really pains me and hurts me, and like I said, I've been hurt by the organized Christianity too. And I'm just sorry because it's just it shouldn't be that way for anyone at all. It shouldn't. And like I have this deep want to I don't know if I want to fix the image. I don't even no, I don't care about fixing the image of Christianity. I just care about I don't know, just showing queer people or people of whoever, but just showing whoever, but especially queer people, um, that is not what Christianity is, and that, like I said, that's not to convert anybody, that's not to change anybody's beliefs, that's not to make people Christians, because I don't fucking believe in any of that shit. I think it's the most ass backwards thing to sit there and try and preach at people and convince them to believe what you believe, or else you're going to hell. Like that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And I don't even believe in hell. I don't believe that hell exists. Truly, genuinely, with my whole ass. I don't believe that hell even exists in this world. I don't believe the devil exists. I don't believe in any of that shit. I don't know. I just want to be, and I want to be an example for LGBT people, especially, that you were wronged, and just because they were acting, whoever it was acting under the guise of being loving or caring or whatever else, it was still wrong. And just point blank, it was still wrong. And I'm just, I don't know. It's just it all pisses me off so much, and it all just makes me so sad that people are so cowardly that they can't just own up to being hateful and have to use Christianity as a scapegoat for them being hateful. It's just, if you're gonna be hateful, for one, maybe just don't be hateful. But if you are, at least own the fuck up to it. Like, I'm sick of Christianity just being this. Oh, it's because I'm a Christian. It's because I read the Bible. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if you memorize the Bible from front cover to the back cover. You are just being hateful. Point blank. There's no excuse for it. There's no denying it. There's no, and like, that's not to say that you can't fix, like, you can't change that, because you can. There's plenty of hateful people out there who have changed shit like that, and who have spoken to, people of color, or queer people, or whatever, or trans people, or whatever else, and had this change of heart. Like, I've literally seen it happen in my own life. I've had that experience in my own life. I've seen people be affected by me being myself, and they're like, "Oh shit. Like, I love you as a human being, and I care about you. So why do I have these hateful feelings?" And then they, you know, have their come to God moment, so to speak, and just realize that, their beliefs don't have to mean that they hate anybody. Like, their beliefs don't have to mean that they hate someone of a different religion or sexuality or gender or whatever else. And that's such a beautiful thing. Like, it's sad that people even have to reassess their beliefs that much. But again, indoctrination and the very evident brainwashing of Christianity is very powerful. But it's just like, it's a beautiful thing when someone can actually put themselves aside and realize that they can still have their beliefs without having to put anyone else down for them. Because you shouldn't have to put people down for shit that they can't control with your beliefs. You shouldn't have to. That shouldn't be a part of the guidebook. That shouldn't be a part of any religious guidebook, to be hateful towards people. I don't understand why we're like that. I don't understand why people adopt that mindset. And actually I do. And like I said earlier, I think it's because of a lack of education, and just a lack of, like, expansive thinking, and, like, really deep thinking about the world. And again, that's not to say anybody is stupid who doesn't do that, or anybody is less than because they don't do that. It's just very sad to see when that is happening, because I know that those people are just, I don't know, they're just so deep in fear or guilt or whatever it is. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a sad situation, and I wish that everybody could have the experience of just, like, understanding other people, and, like, understanding different religions, and like, understanding different genders and sexualities, and whatever else. I don't know. I feel like the world would just be a lot kinder if we all had a hell of a lot more understanding for one another, and love for one another, and kindness for one another. Because then we wouldn't have to get to the point of people having their rights taken away, or being hate crimed, or, you know, literal Nazis standing outside of Disney. That probably wouldn't have to happen if we were a lot more loving and accepting and kind to one another, and we all gave more of a shit about educating ourselves and learning about other people and their experiences, and understanding that we are all indeed humans just trying to live our lives and trying to make it work. somehow and figure all this crazy shit out. And that's really all it boils down to, in my opinion. It really is. It really it feels like it really could be that simple, but some people just don't want to let it be, unfortunately. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I just like blacked out for a half hour. I don't even know what I just said, but I think I'm gonna call it there before I start violently sobbing and crying and throwing up thinking about religious trauma. Um, got a little choked up earlier. We don't have to talk about that. Actually, no, we do because it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry and be emotional. Um, but yeah, I think that's all I have to say before I start pissing and crying and throwing up and screaming. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you all for listening. If you are still here, I will hopefully be posting this podcast once a week. Um, my life is a little hectic right now, so we'll have to see. But other than this podcast, you can also find me on TikTok as The Queer Journal, YouTube as The Queer Journal, and I also stream on Twitch. My username is Tyzul, so Tyzzul, and I'll have it all linked in the description below. But if you liked this podcast, you could throw me a subscription, a like, follow on TikTok, follow on Twitch, anything you want. But yeah, I'm gonna call it there. And again, thank you all for listening. Um, I will continue to pretty much just talk about topics that I'm passionate about or interested in, and I will also be having some guests on continually to talk about their experiences and um, their lives as queer and trans people. But yeah, thank you all again for joining me, and I will hopefully see you all on the next one. Peace out, y'all.